Okay, meeting is now being recorded and afterwards it will be posted on YouTube. Before we get going, let me just tell everyone I am operating at about 10% of normal right now. I had multiple medical interventions in the past 10 days and I am far from at peak performance. So my apologies if I am not as prepared for this meeting as I normally am. We'll get through it anyway. Mary, the meeting's yours.
All right. Good afternoon or good morning for the next 60 seconds and then good afternoon to everyone. Any additions or changes to the agenda, Jim?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Approval of the minutes from the December 9th meeting. Anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns about the minutes? And if not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Brian made a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I think moving forward, I'll say any opposed, like Meg did at the planning meeting last month.
Okay, that'll work.
So the minutes are approved. Communications and reports, financial statements. We had one in our packet, but then Jim mailed us an updated version, I guess.
That's correct. The one that went out in your packets was for the month ending November. I didn't have the December ones until, well, I guess they came in while I was dealing with my medical issues, so my apologies. They went out in this morning's mail, and so those are through the end of the calendar year. No real surprises on there, other than the fact that I'm a little bit more in the black than I normally am because I have a little less staff than I normally do. I've lost a few people to the planning board and to the city. So I have a 7% number in the black, so I should finish out this year just fine. No issues in terms of annual budget. Have a little bit of money to reprogram in the future. In terms of abnormal expenses for the month, there are none that have occurred. The biggest expense out of the ordinary was basically paying the consultant for the Carrier Dome study.
We should be able to roll any extra money into next fiscal year.
What we do with extra monies, I usually don't program it next year, I program it the year after. So like the UPWP that's being going before policy committee next week has last year's unprogrammed money set to program into it. Usually kind of like sits for a year before it gets reprogrammed.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
Because I don't really know the exact dollar amount until June.
Yeah. We could use it for TIP projects.
Unfortunately, you can't.
Darn. I don't think it would help all that much, but anyway. Okay. Any questions on the financials? Hearing none, we'll move to the UPWP status report.
Okay. Again, my apologies. I'm substantially unprepared for today's meeting. Under general administration, I guess one thing I want to point out is thank you very much to Dan Posnowski for his assistance in maneuvering the county legislature and getting our host agreements signed this past month. Every 10 years or so, the MPOs have to go through a process of getting our host agreements signed with the state and our host. And we're more complicated than some because we're hosted by the county and subcontracted out to the regional planning board. So that just adds another layer of red tape and bureaucracy to the whole hosting process. And it went before the legislature yesterday, I believe. And so that's good, or I forget what day.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes. Sorry. The whole past 10 days has been a blur. But in any case, when we went through the committees fine and went through the county ledge fine, and we received a signed copy from the county executive, and that has been passed on to New York State DOT. And the good point of that is it means the MPO will have all the paperwork necessary to keep operating for the next 10 years, which is beneficial for all of our member agencies to get all the tip monies that you all need to do your jobs.
I just want to throw in, as long as the governor signs it on time. So now it's on DOT to get this thing through the state.
Yes, yes, understood. Also related, upgrading our regular upgraded maintenance to our IT infrastructure. A couple more computers have been replaced here on site. We had a planning committee earlier in January. We have a policy committee meeting scheduled for next week. Under public participation, we actually did quite a lot in January. We had a federal certification public meetings on January 11th and 13th. We had a Skinny Atlas virtual public meeting on January 18th, a forum on active transportation meeting on January 25th, a Maddydale Route 11 corridor study public meeting on January 31st, and policy committee meeting next week. So quite a bit going on in public participation here, actually, for this time of year. Under federal transportation, staff's been trying to participate in some webinars to learn some of the nuances of the new funding bill. Of particular concern and of interest to me is the new bridge funding program and how that's going to be administered and available. And I'll be honest, right now, it's still a little bit of a mystery in terms of what we're going to be doing at the MPO level and what our role is going to be. So we're still anxiously awaiting more detail on understanding how that is going to be rolled out, and if we're going to have any role in that process, because the law is ambiguous enough that we might not have any, and that it might just be handled at the state level and then comes back to us to add it to the tip after the state made up their mind. So at the moment, I am unsure, but we are trying to learn more as that goes on. For the UPWP, we have a draft UPWP going to policy committee meeting next week. It's a little bit larger than normal based on dollar amounts because my budget went up as part of the new transportation bill, which is good. I will be working on filling up some staff vacancies in the next few months because I'm a little bit understaffed at the moment, and I might not be able to get more people until the new college grads come out in May, but I'll try earlier than that, but I might be stuck waiting until May. For data collection, staff has updated all our data collection efforts with our consultants. Excuse me for a moment, please. Apologies. For geographic information systems, our online maps are now updated to include all the variable message signs on the New York State Thruway and some additional updates for our online map portal to make it more useful for our member agencies. Speaking of member agencies, we updated the Onondaga County map. It is at the printers. We were waiting on it like everything else right now. Supply chains are an issue, so it's taken longer to get back from the printer than we would like because they don't have all of the equipment they need to print it and deliver it to us. But as soon as we have that, we'll bring it over to Onondaga County DOT. Bike ped planning, we had a lot of interest in the January 25th forum on active transportation. The topic was snow removal, and everyone has an opinion on that at Syracuse, especially they will have even more of one tomorrow, I'm thinking. Bridge and pavement condition management system, that's on track to be done at the end of this program year, March 31st. We're also on track by March 31st to have the Empire State Local Economic Opportunities Plan in Dan's hands, so he can do what he'd like to with that. That actually looks pretty good. I was looking at it the other day. Long-range transportation plan, we have an amendment going before our policy committee meeting next week. For the dome traffic management study, we had a SAC meeting on January 20th. That project is on track, and it's going to be hitting a pause, or for some reason, as this consultant calls it, an interregnum, which is a new word I had to look up. I didn't know that. I get to learn something every now and again.
What was that word?
Interregnum? Am I saying that right, Mario? Yes, interregnum. Basically, it just means pause. But in their contract, it's called.
That's a new word for me too.
Yeah. Basically, we are intentionally pausing that project until I-81 has a more definitive milestone than it has right now, so that we know that the next stages of it are exactly what needs to happen. For Tuscarora Road, that project is done. It's going to policy committee next week. Route 11 Maddydale study is being finalized. We held the final public meeting. That's wrapped up. That'll be done by the end of the program year. Same thing for the Manlius Village Center pedestrian study. That'll be done by the end of the program year. Village of Skinny Atlas is done, going to policy committee next week. Syracuse sidewalk planning study, we are ramping up for hiring our army of interns that'll walk the city of Syracuse again this summer. We'll have them ready to go and we'll see if we can get a couple hundred more miles under their belts this summer for the city of Syracuse. The Syracuse residential parking permit is phase 1 is on track. For travel demand modeling, we're working with the state to figure out the best method for rectifying the model for 81 and the model we use here and bringing it back together into one model. And for the tip, there has been an enormous amount of communication going on between us and member agencies relating to available funding and the upcoming new tip, because there's a lot of concern about if there's enough money to do what everyone needs to do. And the answer is no, there is not enough money to do what everyone wants to do and needs to do. And we're going to have to figure a way through that problem anyway. So that's my abbreviated version of our status report. If there's anything you need, please ask.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Then we will move on to no old business and new business, the tip amendments.
Now there's a lot of tip amendments here. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to them, and then I'll let the state speak to them since all but one of them is theirs. So safety improvements, Route 11 at Route 49 intersection, Village of Central Square. New York State DOT is proposing to delay the detailed design and right-of-way acquisition phases from 21-22 to 22-23, and construction and inspection phases from 22-23 to 23-24. Beneficiary of that is going to be the next project, the City of Syracuse intersection pedestrian improvements. The city is proposing to increase the construction and inspection phases in 21-22 by $459,000 and $81,000 respectively, and that's going to be the recipient of that project that was earlier mentioned. Another recipient project is New York State DOT, New York 31 and Thompson Road and South Bay Road. They're proposing to delay the construction and inspection phases from 21-22 to 22-23. Existing highway safety improvement funds for outside the MPA carrying over. Also from New York State DOT, Route 31, CNS High School to South Bay Road. Delay construction and inspection phases from 21-22 to 22-23, and will merge the project at PS&E with PIN 303771. Compensating offset to be provided by state dedicated funds. Maintenance by contract, Route 92 and 173 to Academy and Flume to Clinton. New York State DOT is proposing to increase the detailed design, construction, and inspection phases 21-22 by $39,000 flex. And $2 million flex respectively. Compensating offsets provided by 303774. Bridge replacement, State Road 49 over Big Bay Creek. New York State DOT is proposing to increase the detailed design phase from 21-22 by $60,000 flex. Route 11 ADA sidewalk projects from Melrose Drive to Highland Drive. New York State DOT is proposing to increase the construction and inspection phases in 21-22 by $200,000 flex and $20,000 flex respectively. Regional signal projects, multiple locations. DOT is proposing to change construction and inspection phases funding from 21-22 from NHPP to flex funding. New York State DOT again, NBC Route 20, Cayuga County line to routes 175. Proposing to delay the detailed design from 21-22 to 23-24 and construction inspection from 22-23 to 24-25. Worth noting that is federal funds will be sought as part of the new tip update for that project. So I'm just going to make sure I call that out. Bridge rehab I-81 over Route 11 in Nedrow. New York State DOT is proposing to delay the detailed design phase from 21-22 to 22-23. And construction and inspections from 22-23 to 24-25. And lastly, replace I-690 guide rail from 41 to I-90. DOT is proposing to remove the project as funds in 22-23 and 23-24 will be merged into a single new PIN. And the new tip that is going to be adopted in the near future. And I was ill prepared to go through all those today, given everything going on. So please ask DOT what you'd like to know, because I can't answer it.
Yeah, I think the thing, you went through them all, Jim, but I think a lot of these amendments are related to the 31, the two jobs on 31. We actually had to move the intersection improvements job, and we were trying to figure out a way of moving the MBC, job with it. The important thing to note there is the MBC will be funded with state funds now that it's in the next, federal fiscal year. Yeah, so mainly, a lot of these amendments are just, finding how to fill the hole that's left behind, and that's what you have here in that big list.
Thank you, Dave. There is there's a couple of projects that are being identified as SDF that I want to, the amendments specifically indicate that that SDF is going to be tried to be replaced with federal funding in the new tip when it's adopted.
Yeah, for the others that are in the list, that's true, where you marked that specifically, that we will be pursuing federal funds in the upcoming tip. But specifically for the Route 31 jobs, the MBC will be progressed with state funds.
State funds, okay. All right. Just want clarity on that.
So that's 303,774, right?
Yeah, the 771 and 774 are the 231 projects.
Yeah, it's the 771.
Mary, you had sent an email about fiscal constraint. Do you want us to pull that table up now?
Yes, please, if you have it.
Mario, can you share that? All right, so that's the fiscal constraint table that we're dealing with. Now, the year we're talking about, concern is 22-23. Mary wanted to make sure that there was enough dollars available for potential overages in that year. It's important to point out that while this fiscal constraint table is accurate for SMTC today, in some ways it's completely inaccurate because the new tip that's going to be adopted, that's the first year of the new tip. So this is accurate for the old tip that is expiring at the end of September. And then the new tip that begins October 1 is going to have this as the first year of the new tip. So while there might be funds that are shown here as available, they may or may not be the same dollar amounts that are on the new tip when that is adopted. So that's just something I need to make sure everyone is crystal clear on, is that this is balanced as of today on the current tip, but the new tip, all these numbers will look different.
So I guess my only concern here is that we zeroed out the flex and urban money in 21-22. Current year.
For the current year.
But we were gonna leave some money in there in case bids came in above budget. I understand, I know we had the conversation that, if we could move some money from the out years into the current year, then that would free up money in the new tip. But I thought we had agreed to leave some flex and urban money in case bids came in above budget.
Hey, Mary, it's Katie, and from that conversation, I thought you meant in 22-23, not 21-22. And that was when we were looking at the new draft fiscal constraint for the new program. We had talked about that because we were trying to smooth out the entire new program. This is showing for like 21-22. You had expressed concerns in 22-23, and I said, and that's when we said, okay, well, let's make sure we leave $1 million flex and $1 million urban in 22-23 on the new draft one. So I just want to make sure we're talking the correct years.
Yeah, I think we had a miscommunication. I was thinking 21-22 in case there was. I mean, we would. I wanted to prefer to leave some flex and urban until we got the bids, and then if the bids all came in good, then we could, do tip amendments then, use it up, because obviously we want to use it up before the end of the federal fiscal year.
So the amendments that we're proposing today for 21, 22 are all offsets from existing funds that we have. I'm not taking any funds from 21, 22 with Flex or Urban or anything like that from 21, 22 right now to add to the projects. If
Yes, there is-
anything, we our own projects as an offset, or we still need phases.
Yeah, there is monies being reprogrammed, but they are also monies being released.
But I thought, I was looking for my,
I'm sorry, Mary, I couldn't hear you.
I was looking for my file. Oh, I see. I gotcha. Okay.
You bring up a really good point, though. I mean, I think that cost overages are going to be becoming the norm right now because all our projects that are on the tip were programmed when inflation was a non-existent item of concern, and now we're seeing it growing at an astronomical rate. So, you know, I think we're going to see every bid come in 20 to 25% higher than it's programmed for going forward for the foreseeable future.
We've had one bid so far this year, and it was a bridge, and surprisingly, it came in within budget.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, it was nice. I'm just concerned because our consultant is, you know, we went for extra money on one project because we thought we had a shortfall, and now the consultant's saying that he's seen prices, you know, that are through the roof on asphalt and concrete. So,
Well,
so
hopefully,
it's very frustrating.
understood. Well, hopefully with the influx of the new transportation bill, if bids come in dramatically higher, we'll have some flexibility to over-program this year more than we normally have had in the past to match those bids because we know that more money is on the horizon. So I can't guarantee that, but my communication with Albany is such that that's, you know, that is not an impossible outcome.
But you're still talking about next year's funds, right?
No, I'm talking about this year. I mean, because the new monies are coming in next year, so then to help compensate if we go over a little bit this year. You know, because you're talking about projects that are already programmed and already obligated.
Yes.
So because they're already programmed and already obligated, I think the state has offered a commitment to, you know, trying to make sure we can reasonably complete those projects.
Okay.
So I guess it depends if we're over by 10% or we're over by 150%. I mean, it really depends on what we're talking about, you know?
Yep. Well, I guess time will tell. Okay.
So we'll
Any
need
other
that.
questions on the TIP amendments? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the TIP amendments as a whole? Brian? I have a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, David. Any further discussion? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any, this is just recorded, so no public comment, right, Jim?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll post it to our YouTube site immediately after, and then they can harass us at that time if they have any comments.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
All right, so just a reminder to everybody, a week from today is our policy committee meeting. And that'll be held virtually. That'll have the UPWP program as well as the LRTP amendment on it. So those are two critical items we need to make sure we adopt next week. And we need to reschedule a capital projects committee meeting to plan for the upcoming tip, and I understand that there's some communications that need to occur between the city, the county, and the state, and SMTC staff is available to assist in those. If you decide you want to have those at the CPC table, we can do that. If you want to have them outside of that, we can do that as well. Please just loop us in on how you'd like to handle your conversations going forward.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mario, you can stop recording.